Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be going over another bow from the Rogue, and this is one that I've actually covered before, but I'm covering it again because they've made changes to it. So this is the patch 1.20 version of Windforce, and we're going to be talking about Windforce today. And the Windforce is a pretty iconic bow from previous games, and this is just the newest version of the Windforce. Windforce obviously can go up to 925 now, which is very nice. It could only go up to like 820 before, so the item power has been increased, which means the damage is a lot higher, but all the weapons have higher damage now. It also has the 60% damage to distant enemies because it is a bow. And it has 55.5% vulnerable damage now, 37.5 to 58.5%. They also have 42% to 84% core skill damage, which is pretty high. And then it has 3 ranks of the Impetus passive, which does go up to 4, I believe, if you upgrade it. If you take a look at the Impetus passive, it's basically a passive that gives you a multiplier as you're running around. So after you move 12 meters, your next non-basic skill will deal 7 times increased damage. And of course, if you were to put points in this is 7 times per point. So you get 14, etc., as you level it up, which means you're getting 3 ranks of that from here. So 7 times 3. Now, we also get 3 ranks of the concussive passive. And the concussive passive is, if I remember correctly, also down here. I can't even remember which one the concussive passive is. I believe this is something new that they added in just for this particular bow. I don't think it had the concussive passive. There it is. So after knocking back or knocking down an enemy, you gain 4% increased critical strike chance against them for 3 seconds. Now, of course, this is important because the bow actually does have knockback on it. So it gains this critical strike chance constantly as you knock down or knock back an enemy. It also has the lucky hit, which was increased. I believe it was increased by 10%. Its lucky hits with this weapon have up to a 30% chance, so 20 to 30 chance to deal double damage and knock back the target. Which, of course, with the concussive passive means you're also going to get a pretty nice crit chance bonus every single time you're knocking back the enemy, so you're going to have pretty high crit. And then on top of that, you also get the impetus passive. And as long as you're moving around, which you move around a lot in Diablo 4, because the game is basically Dance Dance Revolution with all the explosions and poisons and shadow damage effects and death pulses and everything that are on the ground. You're constantly moving, so you're constantly getting the impetus passive as well. I mean, it's just a really high physical damage bow, and there could be other options. One of the main problems with the two-handed items is that the aspect on the two-handed item has to outweigh the potential aspect on the item itself. So, like for instance, when you have an amulet, it's 1.5 times the value, right? And when you have a bow, it's 2 times the value. So if I were to put something, like say Icy Alchemist Loop on a bow, it's 2,325 on a ring, but it would be 4,650 on my two-handed, right? So I could get a much stronger effect by having a very nice aspect on a two-handed bow. And that's really one of the things that Windforce has to go up against a lot, which is basically just, is it better than any other aspect that I could put on my two-handed slot? I mean, overall, they've definitely done a lot to make it more powerful. I don't know if it's powerful enough to convince you to use it. Me specifically, I'm using Eaglehorn that goes along with my penetrating shot, although I was considering Windforce as well. I'm not really 100% sure on this. I do like the effects on it. It has core skill damage, vulnerable damage. The impetus passive, though, I'm not really 100% sure I really want to use that one, because I don't think it really works well for my specific build. I don't know. Maybe. It also has some flavor text on here, which is, there have been numerous world-shaping conflicts throughout history. This bow has been found on the battlefield of everyone and always in the hands of the victor, Spirit's Book of Influence. And as I said, it's been in basically every single game, so. It's interesting to think about it just from the fact that it's basically just a very large powerhouse of an item. I mean, it doesn't really have much other purpose than that, does it? It's just a powerhouse bow. It does lots of damage. It has really nice vulnerable core skill damage. It has very nice, additional effects like the knockback, the concussive passive, which gives you additional crit, the impetus passive, which gives you the multiplier when you're moving, and then of course the knockback may also help you as a ranged character just to keep the monsters away from you, which is nice. All in all, though, I'm not entirely sure. It could make a very interesting addition to this character too. I'm not entirely sold on Eaglehorn yet. I'm not. The penetrating shot bounce thing, I'm not really sure how valuable that really is. I do like the fact that it makes the enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds, which is something that I can get behind. But I could get vulnerable in a myriad of ways on the tree in other things. Like, for instance, I could switch to blended shadow imbuement, which gives the primary explosion a vulnerable. There's other ways, like for instance, I could go with one of the basic skills that gives vulnerable effects. I could also use the exploit glyph and things like that. I mean, there's 100 different ways that you can get vulnerable, and I don't necessarily think Eaglehorn is my only or best option, I guess. Whereas Windforce is just massive amounts of damage, right? So, I don't know. Maybe it's a better choice. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos. This is just the updated version of the Windforce. The original one will stay up. I'm not going to delete it. But this one will be denoted by the 1.20 patch down in the corner so that you guys know the difference between the two. As they update these, I'll put out newer versions with the newer patch numbers, and I'll leave the old ones up just simply for history lessons so that people can go back and they can be like, oh yeah, that's how crappy it used to be, or this is how amazing it used to be before they nerfed it. Yeah. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and keep watching.